Howdy, 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 howdy. It's 12:06 and I had some connection issues this evening. Also, I was on Blog Talk Radio for the first time, and well, goodness gracious me, I was trying to do them both. And then I got, well, if you're supposed to be doing a live radio show, then maybe you should do like a live radio show and not try to multitask or something like that. Hi, everybody. Woo! It is now Saturday morning, and I think today is October the. I got to do a little clicking here. Let's see. Yeah, Saturday, October the 8th, 2016. And man, shoot, we done had us one dickens of a hurricane. I know it's not a hurricane, it's a hurricane. Right, it's a hurricane. What do you think they call them hurricanes? Maybe because they're in a hurry. I don't know, hurricane, what's the cane mean? I don't know, round and round until you fall down or something, and that's till you need a cane, so that's the spinning. Never mind. I'm in a very goofy mood this evening, which I hope you all will enjoy. I'm going to dance around several subjects tonight, and I'm going to get better at this, and I looked at some of my previous videos, and I'm like, 15 people actually clicked on this thing. Now, I didn't look to see how long they watched. I might have turned it right back off. But anyway, I want to discuss some things, and I got some little secrets to kind of wind out and through here. And with all the weirdness going on the internet nowadays, like if you put a particular subject title or something in your subject title description line of your YouTube video or your YouTube live, well, then they will just like cut your feed, cut your video. Now, I've been trying to report on the New Madrid fault line, and in fact, I have a couple of my first videos this year that actually are still up, and I've had issues with, this is an HP Chromebook, and it ain't made to do a whole lot at one time. All right, so I gotta like do the Hangouts and not much else because it'll just go wang, and so oh, dang nabbit, I done got lost on that. Oh, yeah. So, I got things I'm gonna try to hide them in the descriptions of the types of things that I'll be discussing. But it says like, what's up with the sun and the earth? All right. Well, there's a lot of stuff folks are not telling you. And what I mean by folks, I'm talking about NASA and them folks. And when I tried to upload videos about the New Madrid fault line zone thing, especially back when the scientists were saying, oh, holy moly, hang on to your drawers, we fixing to have a big one. Well, that's true. We're going to have a big one. And, oh, okay. All right, Dave, Hawkeye. All right, now. Why do you think that we're going to have the big one? Why, other than all these other people yapping, why do you think we're going to have the big one? Well, I have done some research. Now, at this particular time tonight, I cannot go clicking on the website because this is a Chromebook with very little memory, all right? So I can't screen share yet, all right? I will. But, however, I want to bring some stuff up to you, and you can look it up real easy on the internet. All right. Now, something that folks don't discuss about the New Madrid area. Now, they think the New Madrid area is just around the New Madrid area there on the Mississippi River. Now, most of the activity has occurred in that particular area. Now, what I did and have done and will go back to, because sometimes my memory, it just slapjack, just don't keep up with the rest of me. And it has to do with looking at the geology of the Mississippi River Basin, all right, where, where the Mississippi River is. What's under it, How far down is it to rock? And what is, excuse me, underneath the Mississippi River? Well, sand and mud and clay. Now, if you believe that the Big Ice Age thing, of well, however far back they want to tell us, is true, and that there was a glacier that come down through there, and as the ice was melting, and as the ice melted, it created a stream, and that stream started to turn into the Mississippi River, and Mississippi River took things from around it, melted rocks, gravel, mud, slime, sand, etc., and it floated down the river. Well, it would flood, pull more down, it would settle. Okay, what's under the Mississippi River? That kind of stuff, sediment. Some of it's like layers of clay, and some of it's layers of sand, and some of it's this and that. Now, what most folks don't know is that if you look at Google Earth, and I'm going to learn how to do this screen share stuff. I just don't have it yet, all right? You look at the edge of the Gulf of Mexico, all right, now, let's see. I don't know if this is right. Anyway, over here is Texas, and over here is Florida. Now, maybe it's left or right to you, all right? But Texas, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida and the Panhandle out there. Now, starting at about Panama City, roughly, under the ground, and in separate different places, several different places along the Gulf Coast, all the way around to the tip down there of Texas, under the ground, and some of them pop up, are salt domes. Yeah, table salt domes. D-O-M-E-S, salt domes. Now, what's so interesting about salt domes as I started studying this, I'd heard a word that happens especially along the Mississippi River, especially when there's a lot of shaking going on. There's something that happens with sand and clay and other things like that. Oh man, the word is liquefaction. Now, there's some really interesting tests that have been done over the years and are currently being done. John Hutchinson did some things way back from the Hutchinson effect. But if you take just stretch something tight, all right, over the face of a speaker, all right, and put some pile of sand on there, and just turn up the sound some and watch that paper jump up and down, you'll see that sand dancing on that paper from the vibrations, right? Now, the Earth's got a lot of vibrations. Yes, it do. I tell you what. Now, but when the Earth starts in shimmying and shaking, out west, when California out there shakes, it's rock shaking. Rock. A single piece moving back and forth, all right? Over here at San Andreas Fault, yeah, there might be pieces of rock. That's where little old tiny fault zones go, but they're sitting on rock, all right? Okay, Mississippi River, we just determined it's sitting on clay. Sediment, that type of stuff, bunch of years up underneath, and below that are salt domes. Okay, now we know what salt is. Now salt, I did not know this, can go way, 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 way down into the mantle of the earth. I just thought, a couple miles. Oh no, this was like, golly, I don't want to get myself in trouble. It's at least 10 miles, and I want to say like 100, 150 miles. I was shocked at how far down some of these salt domes go. Now, some of them are like, I don't know, they're real skinny, and they come up here, and some of them actually break through the surface of the crust of the earth. Now, kind of what got me steered over here in this one direction, and it started a couple of years ago over there in Louisiana. All right, and it's Combe, C-O-M-B-E, something Combe. But anyway, it's in the parish over there. Well, the dome broke. It was already close to the surface, and the top caved in. Well, then it started sucking things down in that hole. And I bet you many of you have watched that video and seen trees, I mean full-grown cypress trees, just get sucked down into this hole and disappear forever. I mean, bye-bye. Now, okay, well, did you know that it still is sucking things down into it? It's been a couple of years. I said years. This hole's been there, all right? Now, there's nothing they can do because the salt dome and the way it's shaped, apparently they had dug into it from the bottom and got salt out. Now, you've been hearing about, you don't hear about it much anymore, but years ago they wanted to do Yucca Mountain and store a bunch of nuclear waste and everything there, right? Now, me being an old hippie type, I've been trying to tell these folks that there's a better way to do this since 1968. I've been talking about it. Well, and they should have known too. As soon as I found out, it was like, well, in 40 or 50 years, well, I'm 18 now. In 50 years, that's 68. I could still be alive. And you're telling me that in my lifetime, back then, that these reactors that they were building were going to be obsolete. Kapoof. No good. And what are we going to do with the radiation and the rods then? Well, they were digging in them salt mines, digging out salt for salt. Nothing wrong with that. Well, salt, because it's salt and it absorbs, get this, salt will absorb moisture. Oh, really? So, they opened up these salt mines and then started, they didn't have any regulations as to how close to something else they could take the salt out until they run into the wall of, I don't know, sand or whatever this salt is encapsulated in, right? So these guys just went in there. Well, our technology and sound testing for the ground, radar, imaging, is much better than it was back in the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. So here are these salt domes, and this here one over there, and something called collapses. Now, they haven't told us if they ever will, or if we'll know, if they had drilled into this thing from under the ground and run into this salt dome, took out the salt, and when you take out the salt, and if there ain't nothing up there, it's going to fall in, right? There ain't nothing holding up the ground up above it. I mean, duh, right? So, now I don't know about that part. I'm still doing some checking. However, the fact is that it did happen regardless. Now, Another thing I found out looking at these salt domes is, Gulf of Mexico's got a bunch of oil rigs out there, right? Well, I did not know that if you were near a salt dome, there's a good possibility that you were also going to be next to oil. Really, you say, Dave? Well, I didn't know it either. And so what they have been doing is trying to find the edge of the salt dome and then come in and then drill kind of sort of right next to it and down around, and then they got these curvy kind of drilling devices now that can go down and then angle and go under something. So what they've been doing is going under the salt to get to the oil. All right, now we have pumped millions and millions, if not billions, of gallons of oil out from around the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not talking about anywhere else. We're just going to talk about just around the Gulf, all right? If you count all them oil rigs out there, you can tally up how much oil has been taken out over the last 100 years. So with that said, you take the oil out from underneath the salt, and folks think, that's okay. Big deal, right? It is a big deal, because if you take out the methane, natural gases and things that are in pockets around these salt domes, as well as the oil, if you take these things out, then do you leave an empty cavity? Well, there's a hole in the ground, they put a pipe in and they drill and they start sucking out the oil, and then if the oil well runs dry, then they must have took it all out of that spot, right? Well, if they took all the oil out of that spot, that leaves a cavern now. Now, that cavern didn't used to be a cavern. It was filled with a liquid, and a liquid that's pretty thick, oil, especially that gunk that's coming right out of the ground, right? That's some thick stuff, right? So it's more dense, I think, than water because of all the stuff in it, right? So that means it's going to hold the rock up around it. And many times the gas is under pressure. So there'll be oil with methane trapped just above it. Meaning that it's like somebody took a tire pump and pumped some air down in that hole. Now it's under pressure. If you ever seen a movie in the old days when they strike an oil well and that thing pops loose and oil shoots hundreds of feet up in the air, that's pressure. Now if you take all that pressure out from all them wells there just in the Gulf, from around salt domes, because salt is salt and will dissolve with water. It also does something I did not know, and that from the bottom of a salt dome, if the pressure is changed underneath it, and say this collapses underneath the salt, well then the salt wants to fall out of its dome, and if it mixes with anything, it will have what's called liquefaction take place. And if during an earthquake or tremor of some sort, this sand will go like this and literally start coming out of those salt domes, leaving nothing on the top. In other words, these things are going to go like this, and the ones that do go to the surface, this liquefaction can come up miles from the bottom and work like quantum entanglement. You move a piece of salt way down here, and the one up here is going to move almost at the same time because of the way it's made. And these little salt particles, they're living together now. So they have taken out so much gas and oil from around the Gulf region, Louisiana, Texas, all going up to Mississippi, up into Arkansas, and well, we ain't gonna talk about Oklahoma, Arkansas, because it's along the Mississippi, okay. And it also depends on where those wells are. So, but and I did not know, but they have started. They have frack wells in, of all places, Alabama. On the western edge of Alabama, on the Mississippi side, there are fracking wells in Alabama. I found out why. Because there's a salt dome, and they've got names like Mississippi and this one and that. Some of them are up here in their pockets, and then some of them are way long and more like a cylinder. They go way down into the earth. So there's not just one or two. There are several of them underneath the Mississippi and Louisiana, all up under there, reaching, going out into the Gulf of Mexico, underneath the Gulf, okay? So, but some of these things come right up in that one Bayou Corm. That's the one it was. Bayou Corm is the one that was already close to the surface. And when it collapsed, water started going in, and now fresh water to boot. Meaning it's going to absorb more salt than if water was coming in from the Gulf. Now the issue is here recently, since the first of this year, which now as we are at 10 months in, almost another year, but they were noticing that the water in the sinkhole now was going up and down with the tide. Not a good thing, because it means that all the salt is gone. It melted all the way down as far as it needed to go and broke through to the Gulf of Mexico, which Bayou Corm is not like sitting on the Gulf, but it's pretty close. But still, the Gulf is now coming up through the tunnels and everything of the dissolved salt domes. Dissolved salt domes. And so when the tide comes in, 10 miles out, water rushes up out of the hole there at Bayou Corm. Tide goes out, water goes down, sucks more water in. Fresh water. Now this is still going on, and there is no way to stop this thing. If it's swallowing trees, we could take every dump truck that could go around this hole, and if they could dump continuously for days, they'd not even come close to slowing this thing down. About the best thing they could do would be to plug it with a giant inner tube or something like that, a big rub or something, and fill it full of air. And you know, and like in plumbing, they got these. It's a big rubber gasket, so that like for a clean out on a for a commode or something. You got these things that are rubberized, and you stick them in the pipe, and then wing nut on it, and that wing nut pulls up, and it draws that rubber tight. And if you do it right, then nothing leaks around it, and no waste will come out until you need to get in it. So, and if you need to get in, then you just unloosen that wing nut, and it loosens the tension on the rubber, and then you can pull it out and get to the inside of the pipe. All right, so that's the only thing I can think of that they could use. It'd be a giant one of them, and I ain't seen one of them giant one of them. You know what I'm saying? So, what's going on out there with the earth? Well, they're covering up some of the quakes that are going on. And why do I say that? Well, because quakes in the New Madrid, Mississippi. When I say New Madrid now, I want you to think from all the way from Illinois and Indiana and up there where the where the Ohio meets the Mississippi. I want you to think of from there all the way out past land and into the Gulf, okay? Excuse me. Because I'm referring to that now as that is the New Madrid now because of the salt domes. Before, I think the shock waves were hitting the salt domes back in the 1810 or 11, I think it was, when they had that great big one. I mean, this thing, it shook so hard, the steeples in Boston, Massachusetts were ringing, okay? Now, that's because it's different on the East Coast than it is on the West Coast. That don't happen over there. But because of the mud and stuff that we got here, the way the sound vibrations and everything moves, it's totally different when you're talking about the seismic zone on the Mississippi, all right? Now, mud layers and everything. Now, if you've ever been to Mississippi, and especially if you've been to, like, I'm giving Memphis as an example. If you've been to Memphis, you know that when you start to cross over to Mississippi, you up on a high bluff, all right? That's why Mississippi was kind of hard to take, especially from the water, because it was up on the bluffs and they could lob, stuff at the Yanks all day long, and into the night too, till they run out of ammunition, right? Then they could throw rocks. But anyway, when you get to the Arkansas side, it's 40 miles before you even hit a decent bump. It is flat, dude, flat. They grow rice there and all kinds of stuff that lacks bottomland and can be flooded. And normally they flood. You got to flood rice. I can't tell you the season, but you understand. So you got this high side, which is good packed dirt now on the Mississippi side. That's some good hard clay and some rocks and stuff thrown in. But you got the salt domes under them, okay? Now, back in the 1800s, this was not an issue, the salt domes, okay? Salt domes not an issue. Today, they're an issue. Why? Because they've taken the salt out in different layers for different reasons. They wanted to store stuff, so they took salt out, created a mine, and put a bunch of nuky stuff down in there, right? They ain't told nobody this. Because, if it's 2 miles down in, I say, abandoned salt mine, they got all the salt out, and so it's abandoned. Well, what are we going to do that big old hole down there? I don't know. Let's put, that radioactive stuff we couldn't get rid of, let's put it down there. Huh? How about that? So they did. It's down there. Different holes, different places, all the way from Texas around, all the way to the roughly Panama City. It goes up underneath as far over the Panhandle as Panama City. But like I said, why do they have fracking wells in Alabama? It's because they have salt domes. Oh. So, salt dome under Mississippi, Alabama. That means there's natural gas or oil or combination somewhere near it. It could be way down there, or it could be, closer up. It depends on the shape of the salt dome, all right? And I can't tell you which ones where, but there are several of them of different kinds of shapes, etc. But all you got to do is just Google salt domes, Gulf Coast, and follow some of them. I mean, there's some extraordinary science that's been done, because what happened, it started some of this science with salt domes, was the fact that the folks who were drilling for oil, well, they would drill down next to this stuff and the salt was shifting and it was breaking their equipment. What? And because around the salt and because of the liquefaction dealy going on, sometimes they would break into the edge of the salt, and because the salt would do this liquefaction thing and move about, it would literally shear off some well casings. So they had to design a special type of well casing that goes down in through the salt or near it, around it, so that if the casing gets jostled, there is space around the drill bit so that the drill apparatus won't get messed up, broke, tore up, and etc. Well, boys and girls, when I read that, saw that, looked at the pictures and everything, I about just went, huh? Because I'd heard, that several years ago that the salt domes were going to go. And I was like, well, yeah, okay. No, you don't understand. Somebody told me they were like freaking up and down like I have a year or two ago. Oh my God, the salt domes. And I'm like, yeah, okay, the salt domes. Well, they said salt domes under the Gulf Coast, New Madrid, okay, woo. Well, I knew about that there was clay and sediment under the Mississippi, okay. I did not know about the cause and effect of removal of oil, the removal of gas in these chambers or domes. I'm not talking about salt now. I'm talking about the cavity that's holding the oil / gas combination, right? Now, so here you're taking what's holding up the ground, because there's pressure underneath there. It keeps the ground from wanting to collapse. So if there's a shake and bake going on, there's something underneath it. It might crack, but it's going to be really difficult to collapse because there's the viscosity, the thickness of the oil, gas, etc., or the pressure. So they've removed so much oil and natural gas by drilling around the salt domes. Before they knew what they were doing, and I gotta say that they scratched their head because they were drilling through this stuff and breaking tools and things, and so they really didn't know what they were doing. I mean, they were in some kind of salt or something, okay, blah, 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 but what's this got to do with it? How come it's shearing off our drill bits and stuff, and taking days to retool and money and downtime, and man, it was costing them a fortune. So they start probing the earth some more, right? And then they start doing tests with simulations of salt in laboratories and under conditions, etc. Lo and behold, they find out all these interesting properties about each type of salt dome. And each type of salt dome presents a different type of, well, not problem, but an issue. If it's shaped like a mushroom, for example, and that was one of the examples given, that what had happened was they had drilled into the cap of the mushroom, okay, but this part down here, so they thought that they had missed the basic stem of the mushroom, right, and had moved over far enough, but what had happened was they had kind of clipped the edge of the top of the mushroom, if you will, all right. And so it was those instances that were like, wow, man, we thought, well, but we didn't go very far. So, if the mushroom cap is, a mile thick at its thickest, but out near the edge of the cap, it's only 150 feet thick. So you got a mile and you got 100 feet. Well, they go 100 feet and hit hard rock again, soil, whatever, and the drilling goes back to normal. Well, the problem is that 100 feet that's in the salt is what they were having trouble with, all right? Because they had figured out many moons before that, you can't drill down through the salt. It ain't gonna work. So that's when they started drilling down and curving under, right? I didn't know they could drill sideways, and I mean sideways. But okay, so now I've got to the point of the what's up with the Earth and the Sun. Well, I haven't got to the Sun part yet. The Sun part is, and I'm going to just touch on this for a minute here. I'm going to try to keep this at an hour because I know 2-3 hours is way too much to listen to. And if I got something else to say, I will bring it up and I will make another video of it. But so, and this also makes me stay on topic too. I'm learning, y'all, so thank you for your patience. Because the information I have, you might not know. And even though you can go look, if you will trust me and say, you know, old Hawkeye here, he ain't stupid, and I don't think he's pulling my leg, and you can look it up. But here's the thing. I want you to at least think about, oh, wait a minute, ain't nobody told me this, okay? And so the information's there. It's my job to tell you that there are things that are set in place, not on purpose, mind you, I don't think. They've done, these evil, nasty people are doing crazy stuff to the Earth. That's true. I don't think that the New Madrid was on purpose. I think it was by accident and plumb sheer stupidity on the parts of the engineers thinking, well, if we take oil out 5 miles down, it ain't gonna hurt nothing up here. Well, but they don't know what's around it. And what's to say that 5 miles down that something ain't gonna happen? You go drilling a bunch of holes in a rock up here. How do you think they blow the mountain off the side? You know, chunks of rock off. They drill down and put dynamite in holes spaced out. Well, what does it do? It creates a fracture line. A whole side of a mountain can come off with one one set of charges. Boom. Next time you're in the mountains, if you see vertical lines, wait a minute. Yeah, vertical lines going up and down in a mountain, it looked like that. That's because they drilled them, and that's how they got it out. Boom, and blew it off. So, but my point is, a bunch of little holes drilled over the top of something. If there's a weakness, it's going to want to fracture all the way along where those holes are drilled. Duh. I mean, if you need to, anyway, trust me, that can happen, all right? So they've drilled around these salt domes. Now, the accidents that they've had, like drilling through the mushroom type just along the edge, now that causes moisture and other items to contaminate the salt dome, okay? Anything. Now, you say, well, what does it matter? Well, if the salt is dissolving in fresh water, which it will do, like that, and you've got a bunch of it, or if you take the pressure out from underneath the salt dome, which is what's happening, liquefaction happens, and it shuck and jives all the way up through the salt. So now, I haven't found any recent information, like within the last 5 or 6, 10 years. It's all been done like 2000. There might have been something about 2011. I'll go back through, but here's my point. This is not about exactly how. This is about what's down yonder, what they have found out. If you take pressure off of something that has the tendency to collapse on itself, especially with wiggle jiggle, okay? That's just duh, okay? So now what's going on with the sun in relationship to this is that the sun is absolutely evolving. About a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when the sun was turned at us, if you looked at those satellites that show the sun, I don't mean the one with the circle in it. No, I'm talking about the ones that can see the sun in different wavelengths. And if you saw the coronal hole, the whole one side of our star was like open. You could see in, and it was like weird. It's hollow sun. Oh my goodness. And the gravity and whatever is coming out of there and blah blah blah. Well, bottom line is, when I was a kid, you looked up towards the sun was yellow. Yello. Yellow. The sun is not burning yellow any longer. Nope. It's burning white towards the blue scale. Now, how do I know this? Okie dokie. Look at it. It ain't the same when we were kids. You go out now, I mean, being 64 years old, you know, we I used to run around with a pair of shorts that was like underwear, dang near it, back in the 60s. And all of us kids would be considered almost bum naked back then. But, we run around like a bunch of henny hens. All right? Well, that was a joke in the neighborhood about henny hens were Indians, but we was white little kids running around. But we got so tan you would swear we were. Okay? I mean, there are pictures of my sister. It looked like she was from another country or something. I mean, I'm not being ugly. I mean, she did. At that time, she could get a little bit of suntan and her complexion would turn darker than the rest of us, And she was our little honey hunt, henny hen, right? Honey hunt was what she called an elephant. Anyway, I digress about the sun and the earth. All right. Now, I've been watching these satellites and stuff for about 5 years now. The last 3 years I've been studying, I've been watching, and the last year, because of the Windows 10 issue in my other three computers, um, I have been just like stuck in the sand, okay? So here I am now on this little HP Chromebook, which, by the way, I thought was like, wouldn't crash. This thing locks up in a heartbeat sometimes, and I mean goes down, shuts off, and all your stuff is gone. It reminds me of the Windows 3.1 days when 3.2 came out and 3.3 and but Windows 95, Anyway, they've taken so much oil and gas out from around the salt domes. They do not know what the conditions are of those salt domes. Because if one's 10 miles deep and under the salt, if liquefaction is wiggling its way up from the pressure of the water or whatever is down here and trying to break through, or whatever might be seeping in from the side that nobody knows about, okay? I mean, it's like Bayou Corm. If the Gulf of Mexico has broke into this sinkhole, and when the tide comes in, it goes up and down, right? I went through that. Okay, if it can do that at many miles inland from the edge of the Gulf, we don't know how down deep it is that broke through. It doesn't matter because it broke through. And if it broke through that salt dome, then that means that whatever's going on there is probably happening to the sister one next door, because they're all like side by side and stuff, okay? Supposed to be ancient salt from a seabed. I don't know if I buy that mess or not, but there's a lot of salt, there's a lot of salt domes, etc., of different shapes and sizes. Now, the cylindrical ones that go way down deep are the ones that kind of got me a little, I say worried. Worried in the aspect that they go down so deep, way down there. And if the liquefaction starts this little whirly, it'll suck the salt out of the hole and replace it with I'm thinking magma. The Earth is expanding. It is. It's expanding. It has to. The electromagnetical conditions of the Earth and its spinning, centrifugal force will have it to want to stretch. Okay? Now, I don't mean spread by 400 miles. I'm talking about stretch. Okay? And if you have rearranged up underneath the ground, okay, by swiping the oil down deep and the salt's getting sucked and this is getting replaced and that's being done, now you have cavities where there used to be something. You have empty holes that aren't being supported by anything that we know of. Now, my conjecture is this, supposition on my part, but if you got one of them, if you've got one of them there salt domes that goes way down in the mantle, well, what does that mean? Well, by golly, it means that if the salt's gone, it's so far down there, magma is all around it. Pop through, it's got a straight shot because of where the salt used to be. If there's water or whatever got mixed in there, you've already taken the gas out. And if you didn't, what would happen? I'm just wondering if, like, hot magma hit methane in a chamber, would it ignite? I don't know. Could it blow up down there, come flashing up? Now, I'm bringing this up for several reasons, a bunch of them, because ain't nobody talking about it, okay? Is that, all right, Dave, you say now, all right, what's this, okay, lava and the salt domes and, oh, Finyanga, okay? You ever heard of Hot Springs, Arkansas? Look on the map. It's near where Willie Clinton was born, near Hot Springs. If there's a Hot Springs in Arkansas, which is a state that borders the Mississippi River and Louisiana to the south, if there is a hot spring in Arkansas, then there must be magma not too far under the surface in order for it to keep the water warm. Now, hot springs, okay, natural feature, okay, but they've been fracking, drilling, sucking out all the oil from around this region, creeping right up to where Hot Springs is. El Dorado, Arkansas is not far from Hot Springs. And if you drilling down in the earth, then what's to say you ain't drilling close to that magma? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Now, if they remove the salt one way or the other, and the earth goes to shaking just enough, and they say it will because it's been 200 years or thereabouts, close. What if other salt domes collapse? And if magma ain't too far down there and these things start filling full of whatever kind of water, seawater, fresh water, doesn't matter. If that water starts going in and going down far enough, heating up, what's to say there wouldn't be a steam type of eruption, okay, from down below to throw stuff up, all right? Now, as far up as these salt domes go, they go right on up towards Tennessee, okay? And Tennessee up there at Memphis is not far from St. Louis and not far from the town of New Madrid that this is named after. All right. Now, so you've got all this stuff underneath mud that is not stable in a good earthquake because it liquefactions. All right. So you've got liquefaction on top that goes way down. They have measured how far some of this liquefaction can go, and it can go down their ways. So the liquefaction goes and takes place. All right. From the top, I'm talking about just the soil, just the sand and the soil and the mud and everything on top. Wow, 5.3 southeast of Easter Island, just here, just a couple of minutes ago. I have an earthquake watch on here. So, hot springs, salt domes under it. This breaks, this slides, that slide. Magma comes in, this goes up, that goes up. Ding. We got the Mississippi River that's now 10 miles wide because of what's underneath has very possibly collapsed in on itself. Not because the earthquake split the Mississippi that wide. I do not think that's going to happen. What I do think is going to happen are those salt domes are going to drop. And some of them are miles and miles and miles deep. I ain't going to quote the name of the miles because I can't remember, and I don't want to give you false information. But I want to say that there was one that shocked me that went like 150 miles deep. I can't. I'm not. I'm just saying. I'm not sure. I can't bring them a data. I do have a PDF file though of where I copied it off the internet in case they moved it or something, you know. But there've been many studies done. So I'm worried about the salt domes. Yes, Lord, I am. I'm worried about the salt domes. I'm worried about them hurricanes and them hurricanes coming up there. I did a thing. The Corps of Engineers and scientists got with Obama over this summer of 2016, okay? And they had an emergency FEMA geologist, bunch of guys got together and sat down. Obama's got his tie off and his sleeves rolled up. And they got down to some down and dirties. And they went and told them that they are seriously worried about the New Madrid and what would happen along the Mississippi River. Now, if there was just mud and sediment like there has been, just normal, everyday, go back 200 years when the last one happened. No, they've taken out billions of gallons of oil from underneath. They've taken out the salt from the domes underneath. Okay? Now, I did this thing and I'm going to have to do it up again. But it has to do with the scientists were concerned, and I'm talking, they were like worried at the yin-yang, that the water, because at that time, the Mississippi and all the way up into Missouri, Ohio, a bunch of flooding was going on, right? A lot of heavy rains. What the water was doing to the ground. Now, this was like in April or something, I did this little thing, and I thought, you know, water, okay, 7 some pounds per gallon, there's blah, 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 7 pounds a gallon, all right. And then I figured out how many gallons would go in a cubic foot, all right. And then I figured out how many cubic feet, now that's just 1 foot thick, of water per acre. Now there's charts out there for this. So, but I wanted to do it myself, and then I came up with almost the same. I just didn't put it in a decimal or something, but I was rounding down actually. I didn't want to seem too outrageous, but it ended up being like somewhere 1,000,000 pounds per some mess because the water was 2, 3, 4 feet deep, and not only that, but it's moving. So you have easily, I'm not going to say per acre, I'm just going to say you easily had millions of pounds of water on, from the Mississippi River flooding, millions of pounds of water pushing down on the New Madrid Fall, okay? The mud and the sediment, okay? But what was added was the vibration of the water. Water flowing sets up a vibration. It sets up a resonance, okay? And the vibrations and the resonance are sending signals, guess where? Down to the earth, down through the mud, down through, very likely, some empty cavities that have filled up with something else, or a compromised salt dome that might be kind of intact, but now you've got the weight of the water up here, quite possibly seeping down, but now you've got the weight of the water doing a compression factor that's not normally there, and you've got the motion of the water, you've got the motion of the ocean, and you've got whatever else is going on the world or hitting the atmosphere or whatever as far as creeks and groans are concerned. Now, why would FEMA, why would these geologists all of a sudden just jump up and go, oh crap, man, New Madrid, oh man. Why? I had to stop and think. When they start coming out and going, man, we really ought to worry about this. Well, are they giving us like a line of crap, or should we really worry about it? Well, them folks in Memphis, I think they ought to worry for the simple fact that they haven't had an earthquake. And I'm not talking about the earth splitting open. I'm just talking about since they've had an earthquake from Memphis up to St. Louis and, where the two rivers come together in Ohio and them up there, that there are a lot of buildings and stuff that were built without thinking about earthquakes. Some of them are just nothing more than, they're solid, They might be old. Down here in the South, we got them. They're old buildings are made of brick and mortar. And some of that mortar now is tough, I'm telling you, because I've got some old brick around. But some of that mortar on them brick, you can just work around it, and them just going to fall right down. So those buildings that didn't have the right mixture in the sand on their buildings are running, there's a good dadburn chance them things are going to crumble, fall, or at least have damage, if nothing else, because of the sand mixture in the mortar mix. All right? Not because the brick are bad or it was bad construction, but they didn't have standards back then, and somebody was building something, and 100 years ago it might have been okay, but it's not now, and they didn't think of building Memphis thinking of a 7 or 8 point earthquake, okay? So I am worried about Memphis. I'm worried about up there around St. Louis and up in there, all right? I'm worried because they didn't design their buildings for a New Madrid type of event that happened 200 years ago. Now, okay. My further fears for the rest of us and New Orleans and everybody else in a low-lying area that's less than 15 feet above sea level, and there's a bunch of places down there that, where I grew up in Tampa was only 11 foot above sea level, and we was, a good ways from the ocean, good ways from the, from the bay, but we was only 11 feet above sea level, and we lived on a hill, okay? So at the bottom of the hill was only 6 feet above sea level. Now, when you're in Tampa, you don't think about stuff like that. But if you get 40 feet of water coming from somewhere, that 11 foot, you 20 or more feet underwater. How far does that water go inland? Well, okay, you understand? My concern, and nobody, like I said, I ain't heard nobody talk about this, and I'm willing to bring it up, and I think it should be discussed. Okay, if those things collapse, water's going to go down, but then it's going to want to splash bug up, like you drop something in the water, whoosh, whoosh, and there's going to be a spread of waves. Okay, now that's where your tsunami is going to come from, not necessarily from an earthquake, but from a salt dome collapse, which would create an earthquake. Okay, it would show up as a something big time moved down there. Well, yeah, but it would be one of the salt domes collapse. All right, that's what I'm worried about, because they have taken a lot of stuff from out of the Gulf, and they continue to do so. They still are drilling beside the salt domes because they're fracking now in Alabama and up there in Mississippi. So those folks, guess what? They've been having earthquakes up around in there. They had an earthquake not too long ago. I think it's been about 2 months maybe, up around Birmingham and between Birmingham and Montgomery. In Alabama, they're having earthquakes. Now, it was a 2 point something. That's not the point. They're having them. That's the point. Should they be having earthquakes up there? No. Why are they having earthquakes up there? It's because they're taking stuff out of the ground that isn't being replaced by anything. And those things that might be being replaced, if they're drilling down far enough, the only thing I can think of is going to replace it is going to be magma. So if magma starts finding these little holes to come up and doing this number and starts heating up a pile up, oh, there goes the salt dome. There goes the salt dome. And so with the sun changing its electromagnetical energy, I way don't have enough information about the sun, except to say that I know that with Birkeland currents and the electric universe theory and what they have photographed in different wavelengths, each one of us planets in this solar system is attached with an electric thread to the sun. And in some ways, when we pass other planets and things, we can kind of spit some of that energy off to the planet, and the planet can spit some back up to us energy, because Mars is connected. But what if Earth goes in between the Mars and Sun electric current? We interrupt that current. Well, that's why when planets align, strange things can happen. Really? Well, that's because we're moving in and out of each other's electric fields. You know, that we're changing the polarity or whatever is going on in that area. Polarity, look, bunch of electrical terms there, but polarity would mean like positive, negative, okay? And so you might get a positive charge off of the sun that goes flashing out into space, and it stays positive until it hits ground. Well, Earth is ground. Duh. That's a little joke there, but to the point. So maybe Earth just got the negative polarity at the time, and you get hit by this. So we got some cosmic frying going on, and some of this we can't see. In fact, here it started actually on my birthday, September 24th. I'm gonna cut this short because I'm right at an hour. It's one of the SETI satellites, and it doesn't show light. It doesn't pick up reflections of objects. It picks up the reflections of the photons or protons. I- I'll have to check that. Anyway, photons or protons. It could be both, actually, or a combination anyway. But they catch it. It's the reflection of that off of objects. Okay. Well, you see this bow shock. Most folks I was around, it was a bow shock. And the bow shock you can see, and you can see it in layers. And these layers are like the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Between these different layers, and they're headed and have hit us. And a couple of days later, boom, you can see it on the satellite, bam, enveloped Earth again and out into space again. I think we were hit 3 times in the last month from these cosmic events. Ain't nobody talking about. They ain't saying, oh my God, no, ain't nobody saying nothing. And them that think they know, well, gee whiz, I'm suspicious about what the sun's doing right now. And, well, there ain't no sunspots, and there wasn't no filaments released or nothing, but, man, our geomagnetic storm is off the roof. It's up in the red and going into purple. Oh, man, it should die down tomorrow. Well, tomorrow it was just as bad, and tomorrow was just as bad as that. It went on until about 2 or 3 days ago. Where did this stuff come from? Huh? Ain't nobody said. We got hit with 3 enormous blasts from somewhere. I'm talking solar system-wide blast of something. You don't think it affects us? You don't think that's affecting the Earth? It's affecting the electromagnetical of the Earth. It's affecting the entire solar system. I mean, the storm on Jupiter about went out. We've seen dust storms and instances on Mars that are kind of like, well, that's kind of weird. Things showed up, shouldn't be there. Things that should be there aren't showing up. And then we're sitting here on the Earth, and the Earth is expanding. Quite simply. Nibiru, something else out there pulling on us? Yeah. Yep, it's out there. Only problem is it's not really coming anywhere near us. Yeah, there's a debris field, but we've got more to worry about a debris field of where we're going through the galactic center. That's more of an issue. We're in a section of the galaxy that is so dense. We got meteors and asteroids and all kinds of space rocks going by. We're never in the same spot in the universe. We're traveling through space always. And so now we're in a section of the galaxy. They told us in the 90s we're going to, in the next 20 years, we're going to be going through a really dense section of the galaxy. Dun, da, da, da. We're here. Guess what? We're getting it. Guess what? We've had some bolides and some streakers come through. I've been watching the sky since I was 9 years old. I've had telescopes. I've taken astronomy classes, not astrology, but astronomy. I wanted to be a full-fledged astronomer. And I've had accidents and things happen. Had kids, didn't get to go back to school. But I've been an amateur astronomer, and now with the internet I can keep up with things. So I'm not completely stupid on this stuff. I've been watching the sky for a long time, and the sky is changing. The Earth has moved. I don't care what they say. I got a solar house. It's pointed about 10 degrees off of south, and where I normally would see the sun come through my windows here, right there, in the daytime, the shadows aren't correct. Where the shadows are at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the clock, it's showing that it's only like 11:15 in the afternoon. I mean, in the morning. What? At best, it should be an hour off because of Eastern Daylight Time. And I've always been about 30 minutes because I had moved, I had cocked the house a little bit to the southwest because of my location, but not an hour and a half off. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, My windows are showing it's 11:45 in the morning still from where the sun is. Now, I did a little bit of studying here the last few weeks and come to find out that guess what? How come sundials ain't working? I'm for real. There's several people from around the different threads and different places. It was on, I think, I want to say it was on Kev Baker show. They had one of their guests on, and he was saying something about, oh yeah, the Earth has changed, yeah, because the sundials ain't working now. You know. Now, what can make a sundial not work? They don't work on batteries. They work on alignment with the sun. They work with, you set this up with magnetic or true north as best you can, and when the sun comes up and down, it's supposed to be in the same spot all the time. Well, how can a sundial be off? It's because, guess what? Earth's wobbling, and we're wobbling big time. The other day, and I'm going to try to post the video up here on YouTube, I took some video of the moon going down in the wrong place in the sky. Period. It don't go down over there. And what it means is that because the moon went down where it's at, the Earth is tilted. We're wobbling the last couple of days. 2 months ago, I got video. I can't find it, but I got video of it. And it's hard with my little old camera because it don't do well at night. But I'm here to tell you, 2 days later, the sun went, the moon went down. I can go out in my yard, got a nice field, and then over towards the west, I've got some really big trees, okay, a couple of oak trees and some pine trees. And moon's been going down between these two trees forever. Now, instead of it going down between these two, it's going down on the other side of this one. No, nowhere near between them. Now, wait a minute now. I've been drunk, I've been high, but I'm telling you, the moon has never gone down behind the trees before. It's always gone down between them. I don't care. I know that the moon's got a 11, I don't know, it's got a cycle where it'll be higher in the sky and then lower in the sky. But it does this over a period of several years, and you can time it kind of thing. This is over a period of 5 days. I'm serious. 5 days. It went down behind the tree. 5 days later, it went down between the trees. Now, I don't think the moon's moving, but I know dang well and good the Earth is wobbling. Now, if we're wobbling, the moon's wobbling with us. We got these humongous bursts of energy coming from somewhere towards the sun, or it could be coming from the other side of the sun. Because you can't see from where the satellite is pointed, because you can't see beyond that point. However, you can see that dang thing come in with a cone and go right by us and through the solar system. It's on the SETI satellites. Check it out. Also check out the WSO, Steve Olson. Check his channel. Him and Wayne, they go over some stuff that's just, to me, I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. There's also some unidentified aircraft on the same video that seems to be interacting with that plasma thing coming from the area of the sun. I can't say that it's coming off of the sun. It looks too big. It really does. This blast of whatever it is looks bigger than the sun. And it looks like if it had come from the sun, we would have seen it on the satellites that look at the sun. We would have seen it pop. There's no evidence that we've been able to find up to this point that it shows up on another one. I'm thinking it's actually coming from beyond the sun, but from the direction of the sun. It's just too big, okay? Now, like I said, I'm new at this YouTube stuff here, and so linking and all this kind of thing, I'm shabby at. I apologize. But go to WSO, which is Wormwood Steve Olson, I think is what it means. Steve Olson, he's got a YouTube channel. Check him out. And actually, if you just go and look on my channel at at the liked ones that I have and who I'm subscribed to, check out some of these folks, because I look at everybody and I take a picture from here and here and here and here and here. And if I find out this particular person is giving me information, it might be like, I already know something about this. Okay, let me listen. And then, whoop, something comes up over here on this side from somebody else, but the two collaborate, and then the two don't know each other yet. However, there's a lot of collaboration going on, and one of the things is that I have to speak up, because I have seen these things. I'm going to try to get the videotape back up of these things. I walked out the house the other night and to find out what was the cats were meowing about so hard, and looked up at the stars, and Pleiades was straight up over my head. Pleiades ain't never been straight up over my head. It's always a little bit to the south. Now, I mean, when I step outside, I can see from the shadows and the way it wasn't moonlight, it was just the light of the night sky, okay? But I can see the edge of the roof, okay? And I can see the edge of the roof, and then there's the sky and there's the stars, and there's Pleiades right on that line. And I'm like, no, it ain't supposed to be there. No, 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 no. It's supposed to be further south. So tells me that the earth is rotated this way, okay? Sometimes I can see the North Star, and sometimes I can't. And from where I'm located at down here in South Georgia, 50 miles or so north of the Florida line, roughly, it's hard for me to see the North Pole from here. At least it used to be. But now some nights I can go out, and the North Pole's like, whoa, it's like 25 degrees higher in the sky. What? Now I know Polaris didn't move, not like that. So I can go out there and I'm like, I can see the entire Little Dipper, which from my location down here, I shouldn't be able to see the Little Dipper until it curls up. I can see the entire Little Dipper from my location down here, and I've never seen that before. And I'm talking about clear. I'm not talking about, it's a little goofy, and by the time you get down to the horizon, because it's never been able to see the whole thing. Usually the Little Dipper disappears on the horizon at this time of year. I saw the whole thing. I go out a week later, I go looking for it. Polaris is down again. Little Dipper's hidden in the horizon. Earth wobbles, y'all, and it's wobbling good. And I'm just saying, New Madrid, pay attention. They're not joking about this. I'm worried about them salt domes, and if you don't believe me, go checking on the salt domes. Go check about the salt domes. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, and I didn't mean to holler. And check out where they are and how big they are, and do a little bit of your own research, and just stop and think about it. Think about the millions and possibly billions of pounds of weight from the flooded Mississippi, from one end all the way up, moving and creating vibrations in the earth on an area that right now is being kind of unstable. Okay? So, that's my preaching. That's my teaching for this evening, this morning. I'm the redneck hippie swamp Billy, and I'm down here in southwest Georgia. At the moment, I'm proud to be here. I love you all from around the world, and there's some beautiful other parts of this wonderful United States. And for those of you who are worried about things, stay worried to the point that you are aware. But don't let this fear get you, because that's what they want. They want us all to be in fear. I'm talking to you right now so that you won't have fear. And some weird thing starts happening, you can't figure out why they're lining trucks up and food up and down along either side of the Mississippi, from Louisiana and Arkansas all the way up. That's why. It's the salt domes. They're worried. And them geologists that went to go see El Presidente, idiot, Obama, when they went to him back in July and August and said, or maybe it was June, anyway, they went this last summer and told him something's wrong with the New Madrid, they're getting fractures and cracks down below. Something is coming up. Something happened. And I think that Bayou Corm in Louisiana, the one there where the salt dome broke and the water swallowed the trees, go check it out. I think that's why. Because they would have no other reason to be worried about the New Madrid going off. Why? What would set it off? Well, there's a lot of fracking going on over here in Oklahoma. And it's been creeping around all the way. Yeah. I didn't know they had fracking operations in some places they do, like Alabama. Now, so because of the man is not making the changes, but man's drilling and removal of natural resources are helping with these changes that are going on now. Okay? We didn't create them, but we help them. I mean, if we took all the salt out of a salt dome, for goodness sake, and the thing collapsed, well, that's our fault, because we took the salt out. Duh. Okay. How much salt have we taken out? How many of those salt domes are compromised? You go check them out. You'd be surprised. Well, always be prepared. This hurricane, this Matthew, by the way, it was hit with HAARP. You can look on the tops of the clouds in some of the frames. They hit it with HAARP, several frames, and actually one of the weather announcers on one of the Fox stations said, ladies and gentlemen, that noise that you see on the top of those clouds, he called them birds. 140-mile-an-hour wind going round and around. I have a hurricane 100 miles wide. Okay, 50. Birds are up there, and they are making the pattern that the satellite's picking up. Birds at 45,000 feet, traveling at 140 miles an hour, spinning around, and the birds are what's making their reflection off of the... Are you kidding me? Ladies and gentlemen, hobos and tramps, cross-eyed mosquitoes, and bow-legged ants. That's a lot bigger than a cow flop. That cow flop is about yay deep and flies. And if you believe when you see that on the radar that those are birds at 45,000 feet at 140 miles an hour, you need to just check yourself in somewhere, because that ain't the truth. It's so ridiculous. It can't be true. Birds. No, it's the pattern of the HAARP waves and the radio waves. They hit the clouds and bounce up and back, and they hit themselves on the way as they reflect back off the clouds, and they make these patterns. And the patterns, because they hit them with a certain frequency, if you ever seen an oscilloscope where the waves go up and down like this, and if you tighten the frequency, they get closer together, and if you slow the frequency down, the waves get farther apart. When you see those things in those patterns, you're seeing the waves bouncing off of the clouds, and they're creating the pattern of the frequency of the wave that hit them. Seriously. Oh, it ain't happening? Oh, yeah? Really? Well, there are folks out there want to know the reason why they didn't let the hurricane come into Georgia. It's because right now they just dug all the peanuts, cotton. Peanuts and cotton down here are like it. Now, I say somebody knew somebody with a bunch of money to keep the hurricane from hitting South Georgia, northern Florida, and along in through here, because right now is when they pulling up all the peanuts. And there are millions and millions of dollars worth of peanuts laying on the ground right now. And if they was to get wet, bye-bye peanut crop. Bye-bye cotton crop. All right. Now, Texas and these other places got flooded out earlier, and a lot of them didn't have no cotton this year. Some of them couldn't even plant later on to get peanuts in the ground. I don't know what the peanut futures are on shares, but I do know that where I live down here, if that storm had hit with all these peanuts laying on the ground, all these farmers would have been out, and then we'd have been out the peanuts. And then the gins would have been out of work because there wouldn't be no peanuts to go to them. So, man, that would have been a really bad line. Now, I can't tell you the name of the satellite thing, but it shows the radar being bombarded to keep the clouds away. And honey child, I'm telling you, when it came up, I watched them clouds on the radar, and they stayed over to my east enough to where just a couple of little bands come. I got maybe a sprinkler or two. They saved the peanut crop, and they saved the cotton crop so far. Now, you want to know why? I ain't saying it for positive, but it come up in this way and just took a turn. Well, they said it was, yeah, but you know the reason why they said it was? Because every one of these daggum farmers down here was going, man, if my peanuts are ruined, I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to hurt somebody that if they rain on my peanuts. Yeah. Okay. That's the reason why. New Madrid, why is it so volatile? Mud, sand, salt domes. Check it all out. Be prepared. If you was down in Florida, I grew up in Florida. If you was down in Florida, what we used to do when it was coming, Mom would clean out the bathtub real good and fill it full of fresh water. Yep. Now we didn't have city water where we lived at the time. We had well water. Now what we'd do is we'd fill up the tank. So when the water was off, we could go get water at the bottom of the tank. So we had water from the tank, and we had the bathtub full of water. All right, that was mostly used for, guess what? Flushing the commode. And if you had to pee, us kids went outside. Period. That was that. You know, my little sister, she went outside too sometimes. I mean, you know, it was easier. A lot of times, Mom just locked us out the daggum house, but you know, and poor us little kids is out there trying to find toilet paper because she won't let us in the house to go poop. That's for real. But anyway, I digress. So, but y'all, put some water up, make sure you got a few containers, and as far as emergency prepping, the biggest thing I can tell everyone to do, if you're used to eating 3 meals a day, cut one of them out. If you're used to waking up and big breakfast every morning and off you go, cut it out. You save you something from leftover from the night before, and you get you a little munchie. I'm not saying don't eat. I'm saying don't sit down and have no breakfast. For lunch, you get yourself a little bit of snack, and you ain't going to have no meal. Don't sit down with vegetables and potatoes and all that. And then your best meal of the day is the last meal of the day. Now, why do a lot of people going to argue with me on that? The last meal of the day. Why? Well, the last meal of the day for the pioneers was around 6 o'clock. All right, 6 p.m. in the evening time. Now, you take that. Now, when they'd go to bed, go to sleep, they kept that energy in them. If you have your big meal around lunchtime, you're going to want to take a siesta. You're going to slow down. Your body's going to slow down. Man, you ain't going to want to work the rest of the day. And then if you did eat a decent meal right then, you're going to burn a lot of that up before you get to dinner time. Now, so you have your peaceful breakfast, you have a peaceful lunch, and you have your decent meal in the evening time, and you don't overeat at none of them. You make yourself one good plate, and that's it. No seconds. Why do I say this? Because there are people who are planning on 3 meals a day in an emergency situation. And I'm here to tell you, you ain't got enough water to wash them dishes for 3 meals a day. You ain't going to have enough toilet paper to wipe yourself with, because you're going to be pooping 3 times more than you should. Now, if you cut your big meal, if you cut your 3 meals a day down to 2 snacks and a supper, it's also going to slow down how much you're going to poop. And I'm telling you, them people, these recently, they tell you got to have all these calories and stuff. Let me tell you what. I was up around Trade, Tennessee, which is at Boone, North Carolina. Trade's up on the top of the mountain heading towards Tennessee from Boone, all right? Now, from Boone, which is where Daniel Boone used to have his trading post, I talked with some of the locals and some of the legends and stuff back then, and they true. But they said that Daniel Boone could get up in the morning from Boone, North Carolina, and hike all the way over the top of where Trade, Tennessee is, and down that mountain to the other side to the trading post down over there on where it hit flatland in Tennessee. Now, I talked from people from both sides of the hill, all right? Now, the people on the Tennessee side, because I was going to buy this old trading post that goes back to the time when Daniel Boone was crossing that hill, okay? Now, they was telling me, I said, what did they mean? They had some fat back, because they didn't have time to make no fire, cook no breakfast. But if he was going to pick up something, he would leave from his place on the North Carolina side, up the hill, down the other side, pick up whatever was supposed to go trading that day, and usually it was a pack horse, a mule, or whatever. Now, he was on foot, they say, that he would take whatever there was, usually like a mule or whatever, and make it back over the side of that mountain in the same day. Honey child, I could not walk to the top of that thing in one day. Now, was Daniel Boone a Superman? No. He was physically fit gentleman. And like the Native Americans, they could trot. They could jog miles and miles and miles without stopping. And not eating 2 big meals, or I didn't have enough calories. They didn't think about, I don't have enough calories. They knew that dinner time wasn't until 6 o'clock. Didn't matter what they did in between. They were going to do it regardless of how many calories you had or how many glasses of water you had. They drank when they was thirsty. They drank when they had water. And somebody say, yeah, but they didn't live very old, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, there are other mitigating circumstances about that. But I'm talking on a regular day. If we try to do what they did back then on a normal day, it'd kill us. We might be living longer, but we can't do what they did. When I was a young man, I couldn't have made it over that hill and back in a day. It's a long, and it's uphill. Well, half of the time, each way. No roads. I mean, they were going up just a trail. I'm here to tell you. So the pioneers, the Native Americans, could run, and the folks down in the Amazon, if you watch some of those, the natives down there, they'd have a piece of fruit for breakfast, something for lunch, but then they all get together in the evening time towards after the long part of the day, and they all got together. They all had meal. They all supped together, and that was their meal for the day. They didn't have a bunch of dessert and cakes and this and that. They might have a little snack, a piece of fruit or something later on, but they had one meal a day. We as Americans, we eat too much. Now, I don't. I cut mine way back. Why? Because I'm on Social Security and I can't get food stamps, and they took my money. I don't have enough money to buy groceries every month. Ain't that the bull crap? And that's for real. Ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourself. I went overtime. Dadgummit. Ah, man, 30 minutes I went over. Okay, so, but the easiest thing to do for prepping, cut your meals down now. Let your body get used to eating one meal a day. You're not going to die. You're not going to waste away. And I bet you most of you need to lose a few pounds anyway. I know I did. I was 210 pounds. I'm down to 165. I can carry this weight. Oh, you're too thin. No, I'm not too thin. No, because if with 10 more pounds on, it hurts my back more. It hurts my knee more. It's just 10 more pounds. I don't need to carry 10 more pounds if I don't have to. That's why Daniel Boone went back and forth across the mountain. He was at his ideal weight. He had enough of stuff in him to give him the energy he required. And I will tell you something else. Because we have been conditioned to believe that we must have 3 meals a day in order to survive. They didn't know any better. They just knew that 1 meal a day was what they got because pickings were kind of thin, you know. Now, what they didn't know made them healthier in a way, because they could travel all these 40, 50 miles up and down hills and stuff in a day and do it the next day. I wouldn't be able to do it for a month. So, cut your meals down. Let your body adjust back to where it needs to go, like the pioneer days. And I'm not talking about starving yourself. I'm talking about don't sit down and pig out for 3 meals a day. 2 light meals and the big one about 6. Try not to make it any later, because then it does interrupt with your sleep and other things. 6 o'clock, good time. But the only thing I liked about what Becky used to do, 6 o'clock, your father's coming home. We're going to sit down and eat, and they're going to eat with us. Okay. But that was probably the best thing, was eating at around the same time every evening. And that was your big meal for the day. We did have breakfast. Back then, now, see, with 3 meals a day, it was like courses of growing. Boy, girls, things, you need a little bit more. But I'm talking about you get yourself straightened out. And if you go camping and if you do the hiking thing right, you ain't cooking 3 meals a day. You're doing 1. And any good backpacker who's just been out in the woods before he knew all this, and I'm talking about old swampers like me, you know, that went camping, go out in the woods. I've been 3 days on the river and only had a couple of moon pies and a jug of Gatorade and a thing of Mountain Dew, a 2-liter Mountain Dew. 3 days on the river. That's it. And I wasn't drinking water out of the river neither. So you can make it. Don't let your head be filled for all this stuff that I'm going to die if I don't get 3 meals a day. No, you're not going to die. But you got to tell yourself ahead of time. 1 meal a day is going to be just fine for me. Why? Because the Hindus and a bunch of other Buddhist monks, that type, some of them gentlemen have not eaten a single thing in years. Some of them like many years. Some of them haven't even had anything to drink. Some have only had water, but they have not had any food to eat. Maybe a juice, but no solid foods for years. And these guys are walking around happy, you know, and meditating, having a good time. Hey, how are you today? Now the reason is because Creator God said that we have everything we need around us. And if you allow yourself, these monks know that they can literally absorb through their skin from the energy and the world around them. They can absorb all the minerals, all of the essential things that they need for their body to live without eating. Fake? Oh no, check it out. Ascended masters, check it out. But that is the real bottom line. If you can understand that you can literally absorb energy when you're running, every breath you take in is a lunch. There's enough energy in what you breathe. If you could get every single piece of energy out of all the molecules, by golly, you could run for a week off one breath of air, because there's so much potential in what is in there, in the air that we breathe. So stop thinking you need 3 meals, because you don't. That's bull hockey. You don't need 3 meals. That's the first thing for prepping. Cut your meals back and get used to it and like it, because you don't need it. You do not need it. That's the bottom line. Check it out. Try it out. I'm still alive. I'm 64 years old, and I haven't had 3 meals a day in 10 years. Why? I'm so poor I can't afford 3 meals a day. The other side of the coin is, guess what? I'm still alive. I'm not dead yet. In fact, my blood pressure was good, and I'd lost another 2 pounds. I am down to 165 pounds. 64 years old, 165 pounds, the weight I was in high school. I'm good with that. Yep, I'm good with that. Now I'm going to start walking more and running more, because the extra weight I was carrying, which was like 25 pounds, was bogging me down. So you lose weight, you cut back on your food cost, you'll cut back on your pooping. And why is, I brought up pooping earlier, and I didn't finish off. If you are in a serious emergency situation, you don't have electricity, you're limited water, and you're eating 3 meals a day, you're going to have to poop more. Cut it down to 1 meal a day, less to poop. Now, why is that important? If you can't flush your toilet, that's danged important. And I suggest you have a 5-gallon bucket. Go down to the Walmart store or whatever, the sporting goods store. They sell them plastic toilet seat covers that go over a 5-gallon bucket. And use sand. Do not use water. Save your water, poop in the bucket, and have you another little bucket full of sand, sawdust, something like that. Not wet. Kitty litter will work, but sand is better, because it's thicker, tampered down. All right. When you poop or pee, use as little toilet paper as possible, because you could run out of that, and that's so 5-gallon bucket with a plastic one of them things on there, and sand, not water. Don't flush your mode, because you ain't going to have enough. The lines could stop up, because you're going to be using less water to get the stuff down the drain than you would if you had regular water, like showers and stuff running down your pipes. That helps flush the other stuff down your sewer lines. If you are just putting water to flush the commode, then the poo can get stuck going down the sewer line, because it doesn't have other water to help move this stuff along. So if you flush just to get it out of the toilet and into the pipe, it might not go down the pipe real far. And if you got 3 people in your family and you all pooping 3 times a day and you got limited water, you're gonna have a backed up situation that you're gonna have to call a plumber to fix. And if none of you's got water, then the plumber's gonna go, ha ha, I ain't coming to your house. So get your 5 gallon bucket and I'm pooping it with some sand. Sand sawdust mix is like the best. Throw a little kitty litter in there. But if you go to the auto parts store, get you a bag of oil dry. You can get a 50-pound bag for the cost of what a little bag of kitty litter will cost. All right? Get yourself a little bit of perfume, some pine sol, and just a couple of drops in there when you poop in that bucket. And if you cover it and you cover what you did in the bucket with just enough sand to cover it. Now, I ain't talking about throw this much sand on it. I'm talking about cover your poop. Cover it. Don't pack it. And then when it gets up this high, dig you some kind of hole in the backyard and put the poo in the hole. Don't just throw it out. Put it in a hole. Okay? And then cover the hole up. Okay? Fresh out. Been an hour and 40-something minutes. I love you all. Peace out. Be good. Hunker down when you have to. Don't believe some of what these idiots are telling you. And ask other people because, you know, they might know something too. We're not all stupid, you know. I'm an engineer. I'm an amateur astronomer. And I got a lot of knowledge about what I know. I got a lot of knowledge from being in the woods. I got a lot of knowledge from these other things. Huh? I studied geology because I like rocks and I like to go collect them. You know, do I have certificates on the wall? No. But do I know what I know? Yeah. Why? Because I keep studying it. And I don't make great big claims. I just claim that I'm David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. And this is, rambling after midnight. Talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye, y'all. I gotta go pee.